Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Overwatch In Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be reviewing Mercy. Now, the Mercy gameplay isn't going to be super exciting because she mostly focuses on healing people, and it may be a shorter episode because unlike a lot of the characters in her game, her stats and overall attributes are pretty straightforward, but that does not mean that she is a weak or meaningless character at all. She has a passive which grants her healing of 20 hit points per second after taking no damage for 1 second. A lot of people like to think it's like Lucio, how she regens all the time. It's kind of a slower regen, more akin to having a Zenyatta orb, as long as you don't take damage for 1 second. It's also a really awesome passive because as the healer, nobody has to focus on healing you. As long as you don't take too much damage, you can heal back up and stay alive. She does have a passive movement ability, which allows her to float while holding the jump key. The float is very important because floating allows you to hover over danger, typically when you're doing Pharmacy and looking onto Pharah. However, floating too much, too often, or too predictably can get you killed because ultimately you're just sitting there in the air with no cover whatsoever. We're going to briefly talk about Mercy's pistol, the Caduceus Blaster. What a mouthful that is. It deals 20 damage per shot at any range, just a flat damage weapon, fires at 300 rounds per minute, which is actually kind of fast, and has a fast 1 second reload time. Unfortunately, there's only 20 rounds in the magazine, and it's a fairly slow projectile that you have to lead targets with most of the time, so you're not going to get a whole lot of kills with it. I think it's best used when invulnerable after ulting. However, do keep in mind that this pistol can headshot for double damage, so you can really surprise people with 40 damage per shot headshots. I sometimes get Reapers or soldiers or people that chase after me in a straight line and they walk into a couple of headshots and get blown up. Now let's talk about her Caduceus Staff, or the healing rod as we'll call it. It heals for 60 hit points per second, which is the second fastest healing hit point per second in the game and the most consistent. Now Ana will do a little bit faster. Her healing per second is going to be a little bit closer to 90, but that's assuming that she's not missing. You can maybe do about 120 if you do the biotic grenade, but that's assuming that Ana's not missing. She's always hitting a target, the biotics are going, that nothing is going screwball, and that she has line of sight. Now Mercy is very, very consistent healing. It's a straight damage pump. You just lock it on and you're just constantly pumping heals into your teammates, and you can even lose line of sight for brief periods of time and still have it work. So I think that Mercy is definitely going to be the overall most consistent healer at every single elo except for maybe Masters or Grandmasters, and she's going to be easy to play, well, easy to heal with, we should say. The alternate fire, or the blue pool noodle on her staff, will damage boost up to 30%, and of note, this does stack with other boosts. This stacks with Orisa, this stacks with Ana, this stacks with Discord, this stacks with every other sort of boost you can think of, so you can really pump out a ton of damage if you like damage boost your soldier while Orisa's going and is shooting somebody with a Zenyatta orb or something like that. The damage boost is quite nice. It works wonders on Pharah, it works wonders on Soldier, not so much Ryan or Diva. It can do interesting things on Reaper now that he can self-heal and he deals more damage and heals more when you're damage boosting him. Kind of interesting, but definitely don't forget about it. A lot of bad Mercies focus only on healing and forget how awesome the damage boosting can be for finishing off enemies. Found on Winston sometimes too. However, the Caduceus Staff definitely charges your ultimate faster with the healing. Statistically speaking, per hit point, per second, per overall usefulness, you're going to charge your ultimate faster healing people than you will damage boosting them. Not that you don't, it's only like 25, maybe 30% faster, but focus on the heals if you want to get your res. It has a 15-meter range, which is honestly awesome. It's a really long range, and that's what a lot of people forget about Mercy. They like to hug their tanks, they like to get all up in Reinhardt's butt or right beside Diva, when really you don't have to do that. The range is long enough where you can stay around a corner behind a safe space or somewhere else and not necessarily have to be beside them. Not that you're going to be hiding from the enemies though, because they'll see your staff and they'll see the the trail leading back to you. Her one movement ability is a dash. You press shift on PC and you instantly fly toward an ally that you have targeted. Also of note, most people have it toggled on to where you'll shift toward whatever ally you're healing. It has a colossal 30-meter range. The range is really ridiculous on this. You can boost very, very far, and it has a cooldown of 2 seconds, which is relatively relatively quick for abilities in the game, but I promise you'll find yourself spamming it more often than not, because timing your dash cooldowns and picking safe targets to fly to is super important. Mercy is all about positioning, and this is your #1 positioning tool, so getting good at zipping to enemies, not having it down, going to safe spaces, and kind of avoiding getting shot while you're traveling is very important. I don't want to give you a specific tip for it because everything is situational depending on your team composition, on the enemy team composition, on your level of health, on where you think your teammates are moving. Everything about Mercy is positional and situational, so there's no hard or fast rules on where to go to. Personally, I like to move big distances on the periphery of the fight to avoid enemies and try not to take too much damage. Now let's talk about the juicy part of Mercy, her ultimate. It revives and instantly restores full health to allies that have been dead. You can see their souls floating around. You can zip to the souls too, or dash to them if you need to. And you and your allies are temporarily invulnerable, which is very fun. It was a big buff to Mercy, and it gives you, because previously she would just like zip in and res and get dogpiled and you'd be down a healer again. But now she'll live, and you want to use the invulnerability time to reposition or get some easy pistol shots in on somebody that's weak. Statistically speaking, the resurrection takes a while to charge, point-wise, or the amount of healing that you do, but as Mercy, you're going to be healing a lot of people, so it doesn't take an unreasonable amount of time. You should have a couple of resurrections per round, per point, per payload, whatever. You should have at least one, if not 2 or 3, depending on how much you're healing. It has a maximum range of 15 meters, which is a little bit short. That's a radius, mind you, so it's not terrible, but you do have to be careful because sometimes you're not quite close enough where teammates will die too far apart for you to res all of them, and it does have a 1-second casting time while you can't do anything. Now, while you will be invulnerable during this time, you're kind of locked out of healing or using your pistol or anything like that. And the big res is a funny thing. It's a strange thing in Overwatch. In my opinion, it's one of the strangest things in the game because it's one of those things, should you use it often or rarely? Do you just spam out the 2-man reses to try and tilt battles in your favor, or do you hold it for a long time to get the huge 4 or 5-man? Not for play of the game, but it's like, do you want to give your team another life or a boost in the fight? Do you think you're going to earn your res again? Are you going to waste it on this fight? Do you stay in the fight as Mercy and heal your team, or do you leave and let them all die and then zip in for the big res and restart everything? There's lots of choices to make, lots of situational, positional, fight-dependent choices, lots of different strategies. Some people go for the 2-man spam, some people go for the 5-man reses, some people say the best res is the one you don't need and they stay in the fight the whole time healing their team. Other Mercies just run off and hide and wait to bring everybody back. It depends on your playstyle and what makes sense for the team comp you have. Also, after resurrecting everybody, getting in a few easy shots with your pistol while invulnerable is a good idea too, because you can't heal them because they're invulnerable, and you can just get a few pistol shots in and charge your ultimate, maybe finish off somebody that's weak. I think it works well. And as for what I think about Mercy as a hero, I think Mercy is a great hero in this game, and I love having a Mercy on my team. But if you have a Mercy on your team, or if you're playing Mercy, please know that she gets focused 100% of the time. You must protect your Mercy. You must have a secondary healer, or ideally should have one that can heal her up, even if it's just Soldier dropping a pod for her to fly over to get her healing starting for just a little bit. You have a Winston, a Reinhardt, a Reaper, somebody that can bully and keep your Mercy from getting dogpiled. When I play DPS, my #1 strategy is to go kill Mercy, and a lot of times people don't protect her. And playing Mercy requires a lot of positioning and game knowledge skill, whereas it doesn't require hardly any mechanical skill. You don't really need to aim with Mercy. There's not a lot of twitchy movements to go through. It's all about positioning and playing smart. Mercy needs to not get shot, stay alive, pump out heals, and be there for the big res when it's time. So it takes a lot of actual game knowledge. And when it comes to counters, Mercy's not really strong against anybody in particular because she just kind of heals, and there's a lot of characters she can out heal, but she doesn't have like a character that she directly counters, which is a little bit odd. And then conversely, almost everybody counters Mercy, especially divers, Tracer, Genji, Winston, Reaper, Diva, Doomfist. Now, anybody that gets up in Mercy's face and blows her up really fast is a counter. And looking at that, you're just like, okay, well, Mercy doesn't counter anybody and she gets countered by everybody. Why play her? Well, obviously, you want to play her for the huge res and the easy heals pumping out to your team. Mercy is a powerful character, but she is almost 99% healing. She's almost 100% healing. And if you're going to play, if you just want to heal and don't want to fight, just play Mercy. Guys, that's it for this episode of In Depth. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. I think we only have 4 heroes left now. We have Bastion, Lucio, Doomfist, and who else am I missing? Widowmaker. And then we are going to be wrapping up Overwatch In Depth, and I will move on to other topics. Drifter out.